welcome. It's great to see a full house. This is a very exciting film. I've seen it already because Anna sent me a screener. So it's a very powerful experience. It runs an hour and 50, so it's going to finish around 10 to 8, and then we're going to do about a half an hour of Q&A. I'm being helped by Laura Di Bianco. We're co-moderating this, but we want to leave plenty of time for people to ask questions and Anna to answer. So that's going to be the structure. I just wanted to welcome Anna here. She's come from Rome. She's a filmmaker. Just to give a brief bio, she made her first feature in 1999 called In Principio Erano le Mutande. In the beginning, there was underwear, which was shown in the Berlin Film Festival that year. She's also worked a lot in TV. She's made episodes of the soap opera Un Posto al Sole and some TV movies. In 2008, she directed a mockumentary called Riprendimi, in English, Good Morning Heartache, and which went into competition at the Sundance Film Festival that year. In 2018, she made with Andrea De Sica the first season of Baby, which is an original Netflix series in Italy. And then in 2021, she made with Leonardo D'Agostini the first season of Luna Park, which is another Netflix original written by Isabella Aguilar. And in 2009, it's important, I think, to say this, it was published by Feltrinelli, an autobiographical text, which is about her and her family, called Con un piede impigliato nella storia, which means kind of with one foot stuck in history, which I think the meaning of what that title will become clear when you see this film. And that was published by Feltrinelli, but it's been reissued, I think, a couple of years ago by Derive Prodi. So this film we're going to see about Toni Negri, I don't think I need to say anything about who Toni Negri was, partly because I'm sure some of you know quite a bit about him, and those who don't will find out from the film. The first opening titles is a whole scrolling of sort of main events and what he did and what happened to him. So, you know, from that and the course of the film, you get a lot of information about who Toni Negri was. What we get from this film, I think, is a lot about your relationship with your father when he was close to death. I think you made it 3 years, is that right, before he died, but then started filming. Yeah. And that the last scenes were shot very shortly before he died at the end of 2023. So just over a year and a half ago. And this premiered at last year's Venice Film Festival, and it's then got theatrical release in Italy. So please, I just want to say after the screening, we're going to have a discussion with Laura Di Bianco and me. So I think, Anna, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, just that, hello everybody, and I'm really delighted to be here in New York. It's a town I'm very fond of. And I think this film actually speaks for itself. It's very layered, but I'm really happy to answer your questions afterwards. Thanks, and have a good screening.
So I introduced Anna before the film. I just want to say a word about Laura Di Bianco, who's assistant professor of modern Italian studies at Johns Hopkins University. She works on contemporary Italian cinema, particularly looking at women filmmakers, mobility, ruins, and narratives about climate change. Her first book came out in 2023. It's called Wandering Women, Urban Ecologies of Italian Feminist Filmmaking, published by Indiana, investigates the work of contemporary Italian women directors from a feminist perspective. And she's now working on a book about Alice Rohrwacher, the director. And she has a third book coming out, Crumbling Beauty, an environmental history of Italian cinema, for the second of these projects. She's got now a residential fellowship at Columbia University at the Italian Academy. Right, so what we're going to do, I think, just a few questions or comments to Anna, and then we're going to throw it open to you.
Sure. Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me to join this conversation. I'm very happy to be here, and I thank Anna for bringing this beautiful and important film to New York City. As someone who cares deeply for women filmmaking and feminist filmmaking, I immensely appreciate this film. I love the way she inscribed herself as the daughter of Toni, as the director of the film, as she shows us all the anxiety the fears, her vulnerability, making such a difficult film and revisiting a personal and a collective trauma. And each time I see it, I get to appreciate its complexity, its honesty, its courage. So thank you, Anna. So just an opening question. I'd like David mentioned that you published a memoir in 2009, published by Feltrinelli, and I was wondering how the book paved the way to the film, and well, I'd like to hear about the origin story of the film and about the obstacles that I'm sure you encountered.
Well, actually, I wrote the book because I wanted to make a feature film of it, and the book was optioned, but then there was no way we could make it. We wouldn't get the money neither from the Italian government nor by RAI. So after 10 years of desperately trying to make it, I dropped the project. And then after working for Netflix and being like really in the kind of, mainstream filmmaking, I saw that, my father would have been around for long. So I decided I wanted to record his memories, actually, because I thought it was important. He was a kind of extraordinary character in Italian 1900 history. So that was my starting point. I already had an uncle that took part in the partisan war, and he died suddenly, a heart attack, and I was like, so sorry, I couldn't, record his partisan war stories were amazing, and so I decided to start working with my father. And the thing is that as I was working with him, I understood that actually I was no neutral observer. It was anything but a fly on the wall type of documentary, and that all that had been unsolved between us and was coming up. I was trying to be, and also there was another big misunderstanding at the beginning, that he thought I was gonna make a kind of hagiographical film, and also he was kind of taken aback and was thinking, wow, she's not like gonna just celebrate me, but as I was making it, I didn't think I was gonna be so much in the film, but then by having a look at the material, and then there was another very important step at one point, because I was always like, in the beginning, in the first, couple of years, I was like a voice behind the camera, and so I was, even though it wasn't like that in real life, in filmic terms, I was like in a kind of hierarchical position in relation to my father. And then at one point I decided that, because my main concern was that I wouldn't get enough intimacy with my father, which was both a personal intimacy, which I finally wanted to have, and a filmic intimacy. So I decided, because also thanks to my friend Stefano Savona, who did the camera work, to be in front of the camera. And so I was freed from being behind the camera, I was in front of the camera, and I was really trying to get to this intimacy, which I think by the end of the film, maybe we don't have a sense of closure, like in terms of Hollywood, but we do have, I believe, more intimacy. I hope that's your impression too, I don't know.
Laura, have another. Do you want to say? Yeah? Okay.
Are we short for time?
No, we're not short for time. I love this film. I found it very moving. I thought I knew a lot about Toni Negri, and I kind of knew about him in the way that other people who were, militants in the 1970s. I was 24, 25 in Italy in 77, 78, and I was kind of involved in this stuff. And I read him. He was one of my kind of political masters, I suppose. And, but I didn't know him. And, of course, what I didn't know was what he was like as a father and anything about his childhood or his adolescence. So, I think what I find interesting about the film isn't the story you tell of Toni Negri, because you do tell that story as well. It's actually quite a good, political biography of him. But it's about the way you've used film to kind of work through these layers of memory. Some of the shots I find most moving are those shots of your mother slowed down, very beautiful into camera. I think that's presumably Ilaria Freoli, the editor. Is she working with you to kind of manipulate the image a bit or slow it down? Anyway, perhaps before you... But I was going to say, I think, looking at it, seeing it for the third time now, it's the way you've put together these layers, and even when he goes to that beautiful shot at the end of the woman, the kind of Nausicaa in the water, which must have been fun to shoot, is a kind of, immersion in some sort of memory of the past, and a dream of the past. So anyway, there's a beauty in the film which has got nothing to do with the political Toni Negri and everything to do with the way you've put this together as a film. So would you like to say something about the process of putting it together and how you chose to use this material?
Yes. It's funny that we started, actually, my father and I started talking about the film during COVID. He was in Paris, I was in Rome, but we would do 1 hour long conversation once a week, which were also a way to keep in touch about the film. And the first thing he said to me, I would like you to make it as a Joyce Ulysses. And and somehow this thing kept in my mind, but also because it's difficult to kind of condensate a 90 years life in a 2 hours film, so we did have to find different ways to pass from one time to another. And I think Ilaria is one of the best Italian directors. She did Alina Marazzi's films, editors, and we tried to put it together in a way that it would work emotionally. That was the way we would decide. But we took a year. It took a year of moving things around and see how they worked. And as far as the... I don't know, did I answer the question? And then there were all these different type of materials that we had. And we, of course, the newsreels and the newspapers to us were the big history that kind of impacts the kind of personal history of us, especially as the children, the way we saw it, and then there were these Super 8, which I shot between 18 and 26, which I kind of forgot about it because I didn't have a projector or anything, and because we didn't have a penny for this film, because again, nobody would give us money, we looked at them because we wanted some period films, things to put in the film. But then, as we saw them, we saw that actually we're actually informed by me just living through those things. They were. When I was 18, I was very close to the girl that whose father was in prison and all that, and I found some images which I thought were quite powerful, and I also felt that they were my own narrative when I was about that age. And there were also some surprising findings, there's that scene of my mother throwing a letter in the water, which I had no idea why I shot it, and some people even said, did you make it with AI now? No, I did it back then, 30, 40 years before, with, I don't know why, but it was a whole thing. And about the slow motion thing, actually, no, that's something I did when I was in college in London, because I made a film about my mother, and then because I had those single 8 that were shot by my grandfather, so I made a film and I did that piece, and then I reused it because I like that film very much.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Just to continue on Paola, your mother, who haunts the entire film. And she's this ghost and is continuously evoked, and you find very tender ways to give her voice. I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how you deal with your mother's presence or absence in the film. And incidentally, in the memoir your mother has is a huge chapter that inevitably was lost space in the film. So I just would like to hear some thoughts about Paola and her role in the film, in the shaping of memory.
Well, I think, there are like, I saw this film like if it was a play and we were all characters, and we're all characters that represent different things, like my father represents a more kind of ideology-driven person, and my mother, I think she represents the care, which is really, and it goes throughout the film, and maybe is something that it definitely didn't get that acknowledged in the 70s, but is very important, and is really, I think, what kind of gave me a different perspective about things. And I think she's a very beautiful character, but as you said, rightly said, she haunts the film. So there is something about their relationship that is really not explained. Is exposed, but is not explained. And is part also, but again, I don't see the characters. I try not to have judgment about my characters, but really to try to see how this kind of familiar and historical trauma impacts a family and how each one of us reacted in a different way.
Just one last question, and then we give the floor to the audience. It's about, I wanted to hear your thoughts about the ending, literally a fluid ending. My father and daughter traveling on water, but with their gazes going in different directions and with this sweet smile on their faces.
Well, that was actually the last thing I shot with my father, and after that, that night was taken to hospital with pneumonia, but it wasn't because he went on the boat with me; he got it. But it was really amazing because I really wanted to shoot that scene, and he was very generous, because he came, even though it was difficult for him to climb onto a boat and stay there and whatever. But for me, it was like going back to the origins, going back into the water. And also the water is like a metaphor of, me going around Venice by boat is like trying to map this story in the water. And there's also, stream of consciousness, different time levels and whatever. Yes, we got it all.
Good. Okay, now I think we're going to take some questions. Do you have any mics, or do you need ours? Okay, so if you want to ask a question, please take a mic, so otherwise the recording won't pick it up. Yeah.
Feminism. There is that incredible moment in which your father says, your mother was really loving when I was in jail, and I also felt she had gained her autonomy because I was in jail. And I don't know, this point of feminism is so strong. Your voice. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts. This whole question of feminism in Italy. And it clearly clashes with what he represents. So it seems like a big conflict.
Well, let's say that, in those years, people were like trying to change the world, but they wouldn't, especially the men, they wouldn't, in my opinion, okay, but they wouldn't question their personal lives. Whilst women started questioning, started asking coherence between like political life and a personal life. That was, and also it's true. But they say that feminism started during the war, because the men were at war, and so women had to start doing jobs that normally men would do. So I guess my mother, that these are people born in the 30s, so my mother was brought up as a woman who was supposed to be the wife of maybe somebody brilliant, but the wife and nothing more. And actually, she demonstrated, whilst my father was in prison, she was formidable, you say that? I mean, yes, in the sense that really, she traveled for 4 years all around Italy, talking to everybody, and she really had a lot to do with my father being elected, and basically, probably, if you see again this thing like a big family play or big family novel, probably she was somebody that lived in the shadow of this big personality, and once this big personality was out of the way, she could show her own value. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Then. Okay.
I really like that scene where he said that you should start the movie with this scene, but then it comes 3/4 of the way through. So I'm curious if in your cuts you ever tried starting it that way, and then also more curious about how often you tried to direct the film in that way by giving advice of how to cut things, and if any of that advice was used.
Well, once my father understood that actually our relationship was a kind of device to tell a bigger story, it totally... it was very fast in understanding these kind of things because he was also a good literary critic. And I think there he felt like we all felt after we finished that scene that was like a whole day, actually. We all felt that we got somewhere, and so if he suggested that, but of course we didn't do it because... No, but not because he said that, but because we had in mind all another construction. And sometimes, there is another moment that is like meta-cinematic, is when he says, does the camera hear what you're saying? And then he says, go on, so because I think he also there, he wasn't stupid, he realized what we were doing, yeah. But I also would like to say that I didn't direct the film when I was there. It was not like I was there, like, tactically thinking of saying things. I was completely taken by the emotional flow of what was happening, I wasn't that much in control. I became more in control when I was in the editing room. But I guess you realize that.
I was a little confused. He was elected to Parliament while a prisoner.
Yeah.
So there was a political campaign for his candidacy while he was a prisoner, and then he became like a senator, like a
MP, yeah.
An MP, but he wasn't granted political immunity in this.
Yes, after he got out, because he had political immunity as he was an MP, the parliament had to vote whether to take it away from him or not.
Oh, his immunity.
His immunity. And, for 3 votes, it was taken away.
So in other words, he would have been tried again?
He would have been put back in prison, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's okay.
Yeah, there's the front row here. Yeah.
Congratulations, first of all, and thank you for sharing this beautiful movie with us. I have a question about another part of the family that is not. I didn't see his point of view, and it's your brother. And I was wondering I don't know if I'm going off topic or if it's too personal.
Let's say that my brother...
It's not because, I'm sorry, I don't want to take anything away from the film that is beautiful. It's just that I was curious about your relationship with him going through all this thing, and if he was part of this in a way.
My brother didn't want to have anything to do with the film. He said I couldn't use any of the photos of his photos. He wouldn't give me, and I respect that because we all been very exposed when we were kids. So he didn't want to reopen the wound of exposure. But then when he finally saw the film, he really liked it, and actually we had a screening in Milan where he thanked me publicly for making this film. My brothers had a tougher life than I had. Let's say that. I don't want to go in. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Tina's back. I think we can probably take 2 or 3 more questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, just raise your hand.
Thank you, Anna, for creating this magnificent film and for sharing it with us. At the very beginning, when there was a list of production companies, one of them was MIR, and I'm wondering if it's an Italian acronym or if was used, if the Russian word mir was used on purpose, because it is one of the very few languages that it's the same word for world and for peace. It's mir.
Yeah, it's used in the sense of peace.
Okay. So that, okay. Were they aware, and you, that it has 2 meanings?
I don't know, because that's a production company logo. So I just know, they always told me, the producers, that it means peace. I don't know if they are aware of that. I will tell them.
Oh, yeah. And, on the school walls, it was always written mir, which means peace to the world. Okay. But, it's just 2 words. It's more succinct, hence more powerful. But thank you for answering it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, one here.
I just wonder if you believe that that's his voice on the phone.
No, of course not.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, I can also tell you a personal thing that is in my book, and that day that the phone call is supposed to have been has been made, and he was supposed to be in Rome to make the phone call. It was actually Milan, and it was a year after. My mother and the lawyer were saying, how do you remember where? How can you remember where he was on the 30th of April? And then I took out my diary, and in my diary there was this story that our cat jumped off the window, and we were like all so shocked that he took us to see Close Encounter of the Third Kind, and so because of that, everybody remembered that. He was actually Milan, so he couldn't have been in Rome. But beside that, it wasn't his voice because he wasn't part of the Red Brigades. And actually, after some people of the Red Brigades got arrested, they said he had nothing to do with us. He was actually taken because it was such a kind of, the Moro kidnapping was such a big trauma that they needed somebody immediately as a scapegoat.
Can I just add to this, Anna? Everybody knows that was a false accusation. And as you were saying, a year after the arrests, just about a year after, Patrizio Pecci, who was one of the Red Brigades, turned himself over, turned state's evidence. He gave a long deposition, and he said, Negri has nothing to do with us. So they knew that a year after, and he still spent 3 more years in jail awaiting trial.
But what is crazy about that is that, was a spectacularization of that. That were trial evidence. You couldn't be put them on a record and sell it in a magazine. You know, that was completely mad. If you see it from today's perspective.
Just a final question. Anna, you mentioned that you wrote a beautiful script for a feature film on your father's life. I was wondering if you're still willing to make that film, or just more broadly, where do you think this documentary film is taking your career as a director in Italy?
Well, sometimes in Italy, people ask...
Here in New York, maybe.
No, sometimes in Italy, after the screening, there is always like a lady, maybe old lady, that said, "Are you all right now, dear?" Like, so yes, I'm all right. And no, I mean, we wrote a beautiful screenplay about from my memoir, but at the moment I would like to close any ties with my family. I mean, I've been dealing with that for a really long time, and I think I was really shocked by kind of the good reaction that this film got in Italy, and I would like to work on this fine line between fiction and reality. That's it. I mean, one of the best compliments that I got for this film is that some of the dialogues in this film are much better than a lot of the dialogue in fiction films in Italy, and I think this comes from the fact that we are really close to reality, but I think you can do that also with actors. Anyway, that's all but definitely I'm all right in the sense that this film liberated me from a lot of heavy stuff, and I'm now really, wanting to start finally living my life, actually.
Yeah.